Hi everyone, Amy here from Plastic Clever Schools. Welcome to a Plastic Clever history lesson. Did you know that we didn't always consume and use materials like we do today? In fact, a throwaway culture, like the one we live in now, is pretty modern. Today we're going to explore how plastic became such a huge part of everyday life and how overconsumption has changed the world over time. To get started, let's play a game of then versus now. On screen, you're going to see some everyday objects, and when the image appears like this, I want you to decide if it's an old item from the past, which is a then object, or a modern item that we use today, which is a now object. Then have a go at answering the question that will appear below. So our first item is this glass milk bottle. Do you think that this is old or new? And what could it have looked like if it was made from a different material? Pause now. If you guessed then, you are right. It's a glass milk bottle from the 1900s. And today, this would probably be packaged in a plastic milk bottle in the supermarket. But back then, you didn't actually throw it away. You washed it, left it on your doorstep, and then the milkman took it away to get refilled. And this actually still happens today. Okay, the next item is a plastic bag. What do you think, old or new? And what would one look like before? Yep, this is a modern plastic bag. What do you think people used before these existed? You could have said paper bags, baskets, or cloth bags that they kept for years and years. Okay, now have a look at this toy set. Do you think that this is modern or old? Yep, this is a then object. It's made of wood. And today, toys are mostly made of brightly coloured plastic, but you might still see some wooden ones around as well. Okay, our next item is this lunchbox. What do you think, old or new? And if it's old, what would it be made of now? And if it's new, what might it have been made of before? This is a now item. Many of you guys might have a lunchbox just like this one. Before plastic, kids might have carried their lunch to school in metal tins or paper bags. And finally, this reusable water bottle. What do you think? This is also a new item. It's made from plastic, even though it is designed to be reused. Before plastic, a lot of reusable bottles were made from metal, and buying bottled water also didn't seem to be as common as it is now. Most people in countries like the UK with safe drinking water just drank tap water instead. Okay, good thinking, everyone. Now, before we move on, I want you to pause the video here and discuss these questions as a class. Looking at the items from then and the items from now, which ones would create more rubbish? Which ones would last longer? And why do we throw away things more now than we did in the past? What do you think? Well, before the 1950s, many products were used, repaired, or refilled. If a wooden toy broke, then you put it back together. If you ran out of milk or juice, then your glass bottle was washed and refilled. People valued their belongings and made them last. So when did this change? Let's go back through history step by step and look at the events that led to a change in the way that we use and view materials. For each one, choose which decade you think it fits in, and you can write this on a whiteboard or have a discussion in your class. Are you ready? Our first event is wartime rationing and repairing items. Where do you think that this fits? This fits into the 1940s, during the Second World War, where people lived off small amounts of rations. They had a famous saying, make do and mend. If clothes ripped or toys broke, they repaired them, and throwing things in the bin just wasn't really an option. The next sentence. Fast food and convenience culture grow. When do you think that this happened? This was actually the 1980s. People were busy and they wanted things quickly and on the go. Drive-throughs, takeaways, TV dinners, they all became incredibly popular, and almost all of them came in disposable plastic trays, cups, or wrappers to save people time on washing up. Next, reusable glass bottles were common. Where do you think this fits? Well, in the 1900s, reusable glass bottles were particularly common. Before plastic, things were made of glass or sometimes metal. And as we mentioned, when you bought milk or fizzy drinks, you drank it, washed the bottle, and gave it back to be refilled over and over again. Okay, next. A rise in plastic packaging. When did this happen? This was the 1950s. There was a huge rise in plastic packaging. Scientists figured out how to mass produce this new, colourful, cheap material, and suddenly companies started making lots of disposable items. Okay, now, millions of tons of plastic waste produced yearly. When is this? Sadly, that is today. What started as a convenient idea in the 1950s has built up over 70 years into a massive global pollution crisis. And finally, when did the supermarkets expand? This was the 1960s. Instead of going to a local butcher or a greengrocer who used paper bags, people started going to big supermarkets. To keep food looking fresh on the shelves for longer, supermarkets started wrapping almost everything in this cheap new plastic. Okay, good job everyone. Here is what our timeline looks like overall. Look at how much changed in just a few decades. Here are a few questions to think about. From these events, when do you think plastic usage increased the most? Why people might have liked plastic? And what changed about shopping habits? Pause to discuss as a class now. From your timeline, you might have identified that it was around the 1950s when everything started to change. After plastic became cheap and easy to make, more disposable products appeared. And because plastic was so cheap to produce, companies realised that they could make more money by selling items that were designed to be thrown away after just one use. And suddenly, adverts were everywhere, telling people that it was modern and convenient to buy disposable items. Why wash a cup when you can just bin it? This was the birth of throwaway culture, and it completely changed our shopping habits. Here are some disposable items that we commonly use today. I want you to act as plastic detectives now. For each of these products, try to answer these questions. Is this item necessary? Could it be reused? What might people have used 70 years ago instead? And how long might this last if it's in landfill or the ocean? Pause now to have a think. What did you come up with? You might have said that all of these items are necessary in some way, but do they have to be disposable? Things like single-use plastic bottles, yogurt pots, and crisp packets are usually thrown straight in the bin after you've used them. They can maybe be reused a few times, but they're not designed to be, and some of these can actually be a health risk if we use them too many times. But 70 years ago, things were very different. As we've said, instead of single-use water bottles, people drank from a glass at the tap. Before cling film, people used natural alternatives like leaves or waxy paper. Instead of plastic pens, people used wooden pencils or metal fountain pens that were refilled with ink. And snacks often came in loose bags that were biodegradable. Now, this doesn't mean that these alternatives were perfect. But the main thing to think about is that there was a different way of thinking about materials. Swapping the plastic we use now for just one of these other materials, like glass or paper, isn't a perfect way to solve our waste problem, as then we'll still be using loads of material, just a different type. This still has an impact on our climate and our environment. Before plastic, we used to prioritise reuse and repair. And that is the most important thing. And the last question on the screen was how long will these modern plastic items last in the environment? Well, the problem with throwaway culture is that there is actually no such place as away. Because plastic is a modern man-made invention, it doesn't biodegrade in our environment. If you put an apple core in the compost bin, then it tends to rot away in a couple of months. But if you throw a plastic carrier bag on the ground, it can stay on our planet for at least 20 years. A takeaway coffee cup, even longer, and a single-use plastic bottle, that can take over 450 years to break down. And even then, it doesn't disappear. It just breaks into tiny, toxic pieces called microplastics. So, we clearly have a bit of a problem on our hands. But who is responsible? Let's run through different parts of throwaway living and see who plays a part in it. The first one is, too much packaging is used. Who is responsible for producing and tackling this? You may have said that companies are mostly to blame here, as they're the ones making it. Or you might think that governments could do more to limit the amount that we throw away. Or shoppers for buying it. It's a tricky one, and there are lots of elements that play a part. Our next one is, people buy too many unnecessary items. Who plays a part in this? Many of you probably said shoppers. We already saw how the 1950s adverts convinced people to buy disposable things that they didn't really need. But do companies also hold some responsibility for making those adverts and for convincing consumers to buy their products so that they can make more money? Next, plastic is useful in hospitals and medicine. This is a really important one. We know that plastic can actually be life-saving. Things like syringes, IV tubes, surgical gloves, asthma inhalers, these items need to be completely clean and sterile to stop germs from spreading and to keep patients safe. Often, the safest way to do that is to use them once and then throw them away safely. Hospitals have strict rules set by governments for ensuring cleanliness and safely throwing away medical waste. And scientists at companies are working hard to invent greener medical tools. But this statement shows us that not all plastic is bad. Sometimes, single-use plastic is exactly what we need to stay safe and save lives. The real problem is when we take that durable, 450-year lasting material and use it to make something like wrapping a single banana or a sandwich. And finally, schools can help reduce plastic waste. Who plays a part in that? Hopefully you all said schools, but also everyone. A school, after all, is just a big building filled with hundreds of shoppers. That could be you, or your parents and your teachers. And when a whole school decides to stop using single-use plastic, it sends a message to the companies that we want better choices, and to governments that we want greener rules. The ultimate answer to who is responsible is everyone. It's going to take companies, shoppers, governments and schools all working together to fix this crisis. We may not have known in the past the damage that plastic would cause, but we do now. We have the history, we have the facts, and now we have the power to make a difference. To fix this problem, we need to move away from throwaway culture and go back to valuing our items, reusing them, refilling them, and repairing them just like we did in the past. So to finish, I want you to use what you've learned today to think about an action that you'll take to start doing something yourself, and make a plastic pledge. Try to think about how your action can not just focus on recycling or reducing litter, but stopping waste in the first place. How can you start to reuse or repair some of the things that you use? I'll leave you to work on your pledges now, but make sure that your teacher uploads them to the Above and Beyond section on your school profile on the Plastic Clever Schools website. Great work, everyone, and I will see you soon for another lesson.